You're listening to the Grand Line Podcast.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grind Line Podcast. I'm your host, Greg. You're listening to episode number 300. This is 300. We could not wait for Ryan to come back. He will be back next week. Big episode for us. There's not a lot to talk about the actual Red Wings because, again, they're losing games. But I'm here tonight with Tyler, and we've got a few things to talk about. Some goalie news, some prospect news, some trade rumors. Tyler, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Finally, one of my teams actually wins a game that I would like them to. Michigan beating Ohio State on Saturday, 13-10. In the shoe, I'm sure Ryan is happy about that. Obviously kidding, him being an Ohio State fan, but the Wings aren't doing it for me, so I guess Michigan can do it for me, whether it's on the recruiting trail or actually winning football games for once, which obviously this season wasn't phenomenal. But you beat Ohio State, so everything is good. Other than that, I'm good. The Red Wings are not. I'm actually going to the game tomorrow against the Boston Bruins, so hopefully that will go well. We'll see. Recent history suggests that it hasn't been great, but they did win the last game I went to last year. So let's see if I can get two in a row.
Yeah, the last two games the Red Wings lost. They lost 5-4 in overtime to the Canucks, 5-4 to the Devils on Friday. The two games before that, they did win, though. So they win 2, they lose 2. And again, Newsy still has a job, which I don't understand how that's happening at all. He has brought out the blender. The lines are absolutely insane. But the thing that has happened recently, and what we'll start with off the top, is that yet another goalie goes down. So today, Alex Lyon was retroactively placed on LTIR. If he was ready, he'd be able to be taken off LTIR this Wednesday. But as of this morning, he was not skating. So it doesn't seem like he's close to return. Then Cam Talbot goes down during the game against the Canucks. And Permax Boltman says Derek Lalonde said still no clear answer on Talbot. It'll depend on what the doctor says after seeing Talbot today. I haven't seen anything else past that. But tomorrow will be Husso. But the big news is that Sebastian Cossa does get the call up. People were thinking that maybe if a goalie went down that Jack Campbell might get the call up. Jack Campbell has not played very much hockey at all. He was in the players assistance program and hasn't played, I don't believe, very much since then. But Sebastian Cossa gets the call up. And this is not only a huge thing for Cossa, but also a huge testament in how much trust they put in this kid and how well he's been playing so far.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. To see, well, obviously it's on an emergency basis, so we'll just see what happens. Obviously, when one of the goalies comes back, he likely goes back down to Grand Rapids. But it's huge because there's a real chance that he gets his NHL debut tomorrow in Boston against the Bruins in a tough environment in a division game, which you don't have a whole lot of these anymore, unfortunately. I do not. Let's just talk about something really quickly. I fucking hate the way that these schedules are built now.
Oh, it's been brutal. The first part of the season's been absolutely brutal for Detroit.
I'm not even talking about the Red Wings. I'm talking about just hockey in general. And these, okay, I understand you want to play every team and you want to have Connor McDavid skate into Hockeytown, or you want to have, Jack Hughes or whatever. But I just don't understand. Why are you're killing in division rivalries? Especially the Wings. The Wings don't really have one with somebody in the division other than maybe Ottawa or Tampa, right?
No, you have to be good to have a rivalry generally.
You do, but even when you're bad, even when you're bad, you can have a rivalry with a team that just isn't that good.
It'd be Ottawa right now.
The Wings had one with Nashville back in the day, and Nashville was never really great, but they hated us, and it wasn't really a rivalry. It was more like a big brother, little brother kind of thing.
You could have counted Tampa. Tampa is a mini rivalry.
Tampa is a mini rivalry. Some people will say Boston just because the original 6. My point is on this, and not to take away from the Cossa thing, but I think we don't have enough in division games, dude. Like my friend's dad was saying this the other day. He goes, because we were watching the Bruins Canadiens game, and it's like, I used to know every player on the Canadiens, and now I couldn't tell you more than 3 or 4 players in the Canadiens because we never see them anymore. And it's like that's supposed to be Bruins, Canadians, back in the day, Wings, Hawks. Like you could name every single player. I mean, me personally, I still watch hockey every night, whether it's the Wings or other teams. So I can tell you probably five to 10 players on every team in the NHL. Not everybody's like that, right? Like not everybody's a hockey sicko or a sports sicko. Like people have lives and what have you. So my point is like you used to see, Nashville and Chicago and St. Louis and all these teams, and this is obviously going back to the Western Conference. You could name 10 of those players just because you see them 8 times a year. And now you see them, what, 4? It's just not enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's the NHL back to being really bad at marketing. That's how you market. You create rivalries, and they're not really good at doing it.
I understand why they do it, because you want McDavid and you want those stars coming to town and you want LA and stuff like that. But, like, at the end of the day, like, if you're a Red Wings fan, would you rather see the Bruins in town twice, or would you rather see Connor McDavid in town once? Or, like, not even McDavid, but, like, look at, like, the Western Conference, like San Jose or something. Like, do you really care that much?
No, I would rather see Sebastian Cossa get some playtime against the Boston Bruins, because right now, Sebastian Cossa is tearing it up. This season in the AHL with 14 games played, he has a 2.21 goals against average with a 9.25 save percentage. And he's been on fire. He's been absolutely solid, very technically sound. He's extremely athletic. He has good post-to-post action. He reminds a lot of people of people have at points compared his play style to that of Hasek. He moves around a lot. He's very, like I said, athletic in the net, as to where when we picked up Trey Augustine seems to be very technically sound, very calm and poised and makes moves with a purpose. But Sebastian Cossa is killing it, and it's really cool to get him up to Detroit. If for anything but he makes a lot more money at the NHL level. So you can count this, I guess, as his Christmas bonus, where he gets paid a lot more, even if he's just with the team. But the experience of being with the NHL team, of training with the guys, getting on the ice with the squad, I think that's just invaluable stuff for Cossa as he continues to just move up. I think we said we expected him maybe to be the backup next season. You have Talbot as your starter, you bring in Cossa as your backup, and that way Ville Husso's off the books next year, Alex Lyon's off the books next year. You probably trade one of them toward the deadline even, maybe. But I think if he can come in, and even if he doesn't get a game, that it's really good to see him, and it puts a lot of faith in him. It shows that the management has faith in him.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, he can get his feet wet at the NHL level, right? Like, I'm not saying he's going to start, but he likely will. I mean, if you got,
I'm not sure he'll start, but he might get into games given either A, Husso's play at times, or B, Husso's injury history.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you could go to the morning skate tomorrow and Husso not be feeling well or something. I mean, you've had situations like that before, so he needs to be ready to get in there if he does. And if he does, that's a huge moment, because like it's getting your feet wet, kind of getting your feet under you kind of moment, where like it's not huge pressure. It's just like, okay, you're coming in, you don't have to be the savior, you're just coming in as an emergency, call up. And if you do well, great, you're probably going back down anyways. And if you don't do well, okay, great, then go back to the AHL and figure it out a little bit. So I'm totally fine with it. Hopefully he gets in there. Hopefully the team in front of him, can play well, because that's the big thing, right? You bring in a really young goaltender like that, high first round pick. You can't have him go out there and get shelled. You know what I mean? Like you can't hang him out to dry. So hopefully they can do what they can to keep the puck out, keep the scoring opportunities to a low. And, obviously he makes the saves that he needs to make.
Yeah, he is only 22 years old, and they say goalies have the weirdest development path to the NHL. You used to not see a ton of NHL starters like hit the ECHL. You used to see them go right to the AHL and then pop in. Other goalies, I think Logan Thompson's a good example, had played in the ECHL for a bit before moving to the AHL and then the NHL. Cossa, same thing. He played for Grand Rapids for a few games, got sent to Toledo, played well Toledo, went to Grand Rapids, struggled a little bit, was able to work his way up toward the end of the season, like work his way into a really good role towards the end of that season. And then the Griffins went to the playoffs. And now as the starter, he earned that net by the end of that previous season as the starter this season. And again, like I said, is just doing very, very well. He's 6'7", 220 pounds. I don't even think he's finished growing into his body yet. So you might see him put on another 10 or more pounds. If you can get him at 6'7", 230, 235, he's a big guy. He takes up a ton of net. And even being that big, like I said, he's really athletic and he's able to move really well. And at only 22 years old. And you guys don't normally see goalies pop into the league until 23, 24, 25, simply because of, you think it's hard for a skater to move up that next level. The competition coming at you is so much harder, moving from the ECHL to the AHL and moving from the AHL to the NHL. It's probably hardest for a goalie because you're not facing just one guy who has made that leap to the next level. You're facing an entire team of them who has developed their shots, who has developed their defense. And it's that much harder for you to move. So goalies are kind of voodoo. It could go either way. I do hope he does get at least a little bit of time because I think, again, even if he lets in a few bad goals, it's a really good learning experience on what he needs to do for himself to be able to be consistently at that next level.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think it'll be beneficial to get him in there. Even if it's just one game and then you're sent back down once Talbot or once Lyon comes back. But it'll be valuable for sure. And, obviously for the development of his career, it'll be a good measuring stick to see where he's at in terms of how ready is he for the NHL. Obviously you try not to take too much out of one game or if it's, a half of a game or whatever, but like that's valuable. That is part of the development process of your career. And, for him to be able to get in there once or twice or even for a period, that's huge, because then you can kind of see where you're at in terms of development. Okay, am I almost ready to be in the NHL? Am I going to be the backup for the Red Wings next year? Or is he ready to take the range? It's still a possibility. I mean, obviously you have a lot of goalies in front of him at this point, but again, he's played pretty damn good in Grand Rapids. He's kept the puck out of the net for the most part, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, because like I said, I don't think we thought it was going to, I joked at one point last week when teams were looking for goalies, like the Carolina Hurricanes were looking for a goalie, and you're like, oh, you just trade someone like Lyon and bring up Cossa. And everyone's like, we're not going to bring up Cossa. We don't need to ruin his development, and he's not ready. And then they call him up today. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But we're going to take a really quick first break. We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit about how the team this year compares to the team last year and what Cossa might be facing in front of him if he does get in net. So give us a couple minutes. Word from our sponsors. We'll be right back. From the chill of the arena to skates on ice and people hitting the boards, an NHL game is a sports experience like none other. And when you are looking for tickets, your pick should be Game Time. Game Time is the only app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. And see the great seats with Game Time picks and see the view from your seat on your phone before you buy your tickets. All-in pricing shows you your total cost up front, and you can buy tickets in seconds with just a couple taps. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less somewhere else, Game Time will credit you 110% off the difference. With event cancellation policies that automatically refund your tickets and 24-hour returns guaranteed, you are protected with the Game Time app. And starting now until December 2nd, Game Time is giving us an exclusive deal on Winter Classic tickets. You can get 10% on bleacher seats and 20 to 25% on home plate area tickets. So don't miss out on one of the biggest sporting events this year at Wrigley Field. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. And we're back for segment 2. And earlier today, I was looking through some stats, and I kind of wanted to see where the Red Wings were at through 24 games last season as compared to 24 games this season. And the numbers are kind of interesting. They paint a picture really of what has really happened so far and how we gotten to the point we're at. So in the 2023-24 season, through this point, the Red Wings were 14-7-3 with a Corsi for percentage of 47.1 and 734 shots against. This season, they are 10-11-3 with a Corsi for percentage of 46.2 and 752 shots against. And then a couple other numbers I pulled. The Red Wings have 119 fewer shots on net and have allowed 4 more power play goals through the same stretch. Not good. So they're shooting far less. And we've seen that. The teams are out shooting us almost on a nightly basis, but they're also controlling the puck less, lower Corsi for percentage, and they are allowing more shot volume in general. And we had talked about this too. When you allow shots, far more shots, and you take far less shots, you're going to lose more games than you're going to win. And it's not that we had said that like the defense has not been the biggest issue. The defense has been pretty decent at eliminating high danger chances, keeping people to the perimeter, not allowing a lot of odd man rushes, but they're allowing just far too many shots in general for a team that is supposed to be blocking the puck. So if they can jam up lanes and if they can be more aggressive, if they can try and pick pucks more, if they can play body more, I just think, and it goes back to everyone saying the team is kind of they're allowing this many shots because it seems like they're soft. They're not standing up to guys. They're not playing the body. They're just letting people shoot, and they're not getting in the way.
Yeah, they don't play a version of hockey that is aesthetically pleasing to watch either. You know, I mean, again, they just do not do the little things right. I know their power play's been really good, but other than that, their shots again, they're getting outshot every game, kind of how you alluded to that. They're getting into situations where there's just way too many easy opportunities. That Devils game, I forget who it was that scored the goal. It was right in front of the net. He had it was Nason. He had 4 whacks at the puck in front of the net. I'm like screaming. I'm like, is someone gonna put this fucking guy on his ass or what? Like, they're just not tough enough to play against. Outside of Moritz Seider, outside of Simon Edvinsson, and outside of a couple of forwards, they're not a tough team. And again, I'm not saying that they lack effort, which some nights they do, but for the most part, they're just not a tough team. They don't like to block shots. They don't like to get in the lanes. They don't like to do a lot of things. And I don't know if that comes on the coach or if where that stems from, but you're going to put a rookie goalie in there like that and have a situation like that where the Boston Bruins, have some goal scorers like David Pastrnak, or I guess one mainly scorer like David Pastrnak, you can get lit up pretty easily,
I think the big thing to your point is they don't clear the net front. And this has been a thing I think has been a reoccurring theme the past few seasons, is that they try and hack and whack at the puck when they're in front of the net instead of clearing the guy who's trying to hit the puck. If you can move that guy out of the way, and you don't have to take a penalty doing it, you can do shove. Don't be afraid to shove people. You don't have to cross check, but knock the guy off balance. Get the puck, as one person's hitting the man, another person can be going for the puck. But you see guys like Ben Sherratt just stand there with basically his hands in his pockets while a guy gets 4 or 5 hits at the puck right in front of the net. And you're right, in that in the New Jersey game, right in front. And I sat there and I'm like, okay, but you just let him get 5-6 attempts at hitting that puck in the net, and eventually it's going to go. And he's an NHL player. So it's guys like that. And Ben Sherratt started out okay, awful. This recent stretch has been absolutely terrible. People love to prop up Jeff Petrie. Jeff Petrie's worst moments are the controller disconnect moments where he just glides right by someone or lets someone glide right by him and they run right in and score a goal. It's the second pair and below defense. And I'm not even really that mad at Albert Johansson. I mean, he got his first point a few games ago and he's been decent, but it's the guys like Sherratt who should know better, who should absolutely have coverage, but they're missing coverage standing behind the net, or they're missing coverage standing with their back turned to the dude who's got the puck and he hits it in. It's mistakes like that sure, we might be good at mitigating high danger chances, but it's the high danger chances that you are allowing that are just so stupid that it's the ones that turn around and they bite you in the ass, because it's almost like you can count the seconds until a team ties the game back up. Mm-hmm. Because you have one thing go wrong, you're like, oh, well, give it 15 seconds, they'll score on some stupid play.
And the penalty kill has been brutal, I think. You know, I mean, you talk about situations where they give up way too many easy opportunities in front of the net, man. It's like, put someone on their ass. Don't let them skip, because think about it. If you continuously go to an area and you're going to get cleared out of that area, you're not going to go to that area anymore. Or if you do, you're going to pay a price to go to that area. Not saying it's like it used to be in the old days when Thomas Holmstrom would get cross-checked in front of the net, or Brendan Shanahan would get cross-checked in front of the net, but you still have to go to the net, man. You still have to find a way to go. Like in this game of hockey nowadays that we watch, goals are still greasy. You still need greasy goals to win. And I'm not talking really about the offense. I'm talking about on the defensive side of the puck. They're just not good at clearing out the front of the net or blocking shots. And until they do that, I don't know what to tell you in terms, because this is just what happens. They don't have the personnel. So that's the first thing. And then the personnel that they do have, just, I feel like, I don't know if it's an effort thing. I don't know if it's a coaching thing. I don't know if it's a combination of a couple things, but they just don't have the willing to block shots. They don't have the willing to be tough in front of the net. You got to be tough to play. A couple of years ago, Tampa Bay Lightning, very good team, you know, a very elite team in front of the net. Sergachev, Hedman, you're not going to the net without paying a price. If you're just going to hang out in front of the net, no, you're going to get cleared out of there legally, but you're going to get cleared out of there. And even if you don't clear them out of there, pick up sticks. They don't do that well either. And by pick up sticks, I mean lifting the stick, you know, getting underneath and just jamming it up.
Not top down slashes, bottom up lifts. That's what we need to see more of.
Correct. That is allowed. Although I saw a penalty a couple games ago. I don't remember what game it was. Someone actually got a penalty for lifting the stick. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Did they hit the hands?
I'm kidding. No, they did not hit the hands. It was just an underneath up. Maybe it slid up just a little bit. It didn't touch the hands, but I digress. The officiating in the NHL is subpar, to say the least, and in some cases it's fucking terrible. But again, that's just what happens. I mean, you get to a point where this game is not as physical as it used to be, which is okay, whatever, that's fine. But some of these ticky-tack calls, man, is just ridiculous. And again, when you have a team that can't kill a penalty, it's magnified even worse, because, you know, every 5 power plays, a team scoring 2 or 3 times out of those 5. So
yeah, it's been really bad. I don't know how Bob Bugner still has a job at this point with how the penalty kills going.
I agree with that, but here's the thing. This team is like a dead man walking right now. Like they don't do anything particularly well other than score on the power play. That's the one thing you could hang your hat on. As they get a power play, they're going to get momentum from it because they're snapping it around quite well. They're scoring. I think they're still in the top 5 of power plays in the NHL. I can check that if you want, but I don't know where they go from here. But I guess that's something we could talk about going forward here.
Well, where they go is into the month of December. So today's December 2nd. They have 13 games in December, I believe 7 of which are against division opponents. There are only 5 games on the road. They have 8 home games. They have 5 away games. And there's some big games in there, but I think there's also a lot of winnable games in there. You've got games against Ottawa, which are not playing well at all. You've got games against you've got a game against the Colorado Avalanche, who someone said today that their goaltend, they put a Band-Aid on their goaltending situation, which has not been good. You've got Boston, who has looked weak at a lot of points. Buffalo has not been great. Philly has not been great. The Canadiens are the worst team in the division still. You've got a lot of winnable games in here. The Pittsburgh Penguins, the ones you're going to have trouble with, the Washington Capitals you're going to have trouble with. You play Toronto twice in here. You've had decent luck with Toronto. You've lost games to Toronto. So that could be a coin flip there. You need to go into December and have a better December than you had the previous season. And someone had responded to us and said, last December, the Red Wings went 2-8-1 in their next 11 games after game 24. So the good news is that if they just go 6-4-1 in their next 11, they'll be exactly where they were last year. which means that if you look at 6-4-1, that's the next 11 games. That's Boston, Ottawa, Colorado, Buffalo, Philly, Toronto, Philly again, Montreal twice, St. Louis, and the Maple Leafs again. If you can take 6 of those games, then you're right back in the same place you were last season, and probably better off for it because the division right now is not as good as the division was last season. So if that's your record and you're coming out 6-4-1 and you are at the exact same points percentage and same totals as you had last year, you're probably ahead of where you were last year in the standings.
Yeah, I just don't think the team is quite as good. Hopefully the players can start playing better. Maybe there's a trade to shake things up, because right now I just don't see it. I just don't see the killer instinct. And I know Kane's been out, in and out.
But does that really even matter? Like, what was he doing before he went out, right?
No, yeah, that's true. But I mean, I guess I just struggled to see where this is going to get better. Like without, like, and again, I know we had the conversation about firing Newsy and all that, but like, I just don't know how this is going to get better unless you make a major trade or you fire the coach, which should have been done 3 games ago, man.
I'm not even sure it has to be a major trade. If you could replace someone on your second pair with an upgrade, with a true second pair defenseman, I don't think it's that. I think it makes that much of an impact to where at that point you're blocking more shots, you're getting the puck out of the zone faster and more efficiently. I think that even one move like that, I think could help them exponentially.
I agree. And the one thing that I would have liked, and I think a lot of people would have liked, I think they tried on Trouba. And again, that whether you like Jacob Trouba or not,
Well, his name's back up in the rumor mill.
I did see that. I don't think that's going to happen. He's a captain of that hockey team. I know they're having a tough go a bit right now, are the Rangers, but I just don't see that happening. Maybe, but it's just, how often do you see a captain ever traded? Martin St. Louis was traded from the Lightning to the Rangers at the trade deadline, and I want to say it was 2014, 13, somewhere around there. I forget what year
before
it was.
that.
No, it wasn't. It was like 2012, 13, 14, somewhere in that realm. But anyways, the point of the matter is you don't see that happen too often. And I guess what I was getting at more than anything is, like, you had guys in the free agent market you could have went out and signed. Brett Pesce, who's having a good year with the New Jersey Devils, you could have went out and signed. You could have signed Ryan McDonough or traded for Ryan McDonough from the Nashville Predators. Like, there were Sergachev from the Tampa Bay Lightning. There were trades to be had. There were players to be had. And the Wings just didn't do it. I don't know if they didn't want to spend the money, or if they just believed in the young guys that they had, or what it was exactly. But not addressing the defense is roster management malpractice, in my opinion. I mean, just like, how can you, as Steve Yzerman, look at this roster and say, okay, this roster is good enough to defend in the NHL, and they're just not good on defense. I don't know if it's the coverage. I don't know if it's the scheme. I don't know exactly what it is.
It's all of the above.
I suppose it could be all of the above. But again, the personnel just isn't there. I don't know how you look at that personnel and say, oh, okay, we're looking to go to war with these guys. Like, no.
Well, if you look at important dates, the Red Wings have just about 4 months to fix that. The trade deadline is March 7th this year. They could make some moves. I assume they will be sellers at the deadline unless they really do improve. Like I said, an important December stretch. It'll be an important January. But if they do improve and they do pop up into at least a wild card, I don't really see them selling off if they're still close to a playoff position by that point. But what we are going to talk about in segment 3 is we're going to come back. We'll talk about a decently exciting prospect. And I hold a little bit of reservation here because we've been excited about prospects in the past and they haven't panned out. We'll talk about one that is really lighting it up. And then if we have a little bit of time, we might mention another. So give us another quick minute for a break. We'll be back after a word from our sponsors. The 2024-25 NHL season still has that new car smell, and the action is heating up at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started at DraftKings Sportsbook. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. And if you are new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
And on to our final segment of the night. We're going to talk a little bit about a prospect out of Russia, Dimitri Buchelnikov, who this season is on pace for 63 points. Would be the most by a U22 skater in a single season in KHL history. The current record holder is Alexander Nikishin, who had 55 in 2022-23. Other notable U22 seasons are Kirill Kaprizov at 51 points in 2018-19 and Vladimir Tarasenko, who had 47 points in 2011-2012. Right now, he does have 29 points in 31 games, 8 goals, 21 assists. He is 5'10", 169 pounds. He was drafted round 2, number 52 overall in 2022 as an overager. He was passed up his initial draft year, re-entered, and the Red Wings drafted him. He does have one more season left on his contract over in the KHL. He could break it. They could have his KHL team release him. The same thing just happened with Matvei Michkov this season with the Philadelphia Flyers. He was released from his last season in the KHL. So if they are looking for a scoring punch going into next season, your option could be there. This kid, he got another assist today. So he's actually up. Actually, that might have updated, but he did get another assist in the game today. He's everywhere. He's been named to the All-Star game for the KHL. It's a guy that you try and not get too excited about because you've seen Russian prospects come over and like do really bad, like be really good in the KHL and then come to the NHL and not be able to translate their game at all. But what you could hope for and what you hope happens is he does turn into the next Kaprizov
or Kucherov or, any of those Russian wingers. Definitely a goal scorer. Definitely has some playmaking ability as well. At 21 years old, he's coming into his own for sure. I mean, to be named that's his rookie year, right, in the KHL.
He played 55 games last season.
Yeah. Okay. So that's essentially his sophomore year in the KHL, and he can break his contract and come back over, or not come back over, but come over, much like Kaprizov did, much like Michkov did. So it would be interesting to see what happens, after this season, if he ends up coming here and making an impact right away, or if it's something where he would go to Grand Rapids. I don't believe that if he's coming here, he's going to Grand Rapids. I think if he's coming here. No,
normally the Russian players stay in the KHL so they can skip the AHL.
Yeah, exactly. And so that would be interesting to see if you can bring him over and, get that scoring touch, because they just don't have that guy that you look at. It's like, oh, that's our 40 goal scorer. That's our 50 goal scorer. Not that those guys
they
grow
might.
on trees.
Lucas Raymond.
They might. Okay, that's fair. I personally think Raymond is more of a playmaker than he is a goal scorer. Maybe that materializes going forward. I see him more as like a Henrik Zetterberg kind of player where he's pretty decent defensively. He's a really good playmaker, and he has the scoring touch when at times, but you see him get snake bitten sometimes too. And with the real good goal scorers, they have their occasional situations where they get snake bitten, but they find a way to score. Even if it's at the dirty areas, they find a way to put the puck in the back of the net. You think of your Panarins, you think of your Jack Hugheses, I guess not even Jack Hughes, but you think of your Pasternaks, you think of your Stamkoses back in the day, Ovechkin. Like, those guys are so good at putting the puck. Like, you always hear people and announcers say a goal scorer's goal. The Wings don't have a whole lot of players that have that ability. Patrick Kane's one. Obviously, he's kind of on the downside of his career. Lucas Raymond won at times. Alan Larkin. But again, you don't have that guy that's like, oh my God, I can hang my hat. And DeBrincat too is another one. But he has too many situations where he goes into slumps too. So hopefully this year, I mean, obviously he's got 10 goals already. So hopefully this year he can avoid that and get to that 30 or 40 goal plateau, who knows? We'll see. And again, the point of the matter is the Wings don't have a bona fide goal scorer, and it'd be nice to be able to hang your hat on somebody coming over from Russia or someone you drafted that you didn't expect to be this high end blue chip kind of player that becomes that. The Wings haven't had that in a long time, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think this season, if you look at a guy who you think could score you 40 plus goals, right now it's Dylan Larkin. Dylan Larkin, as a couple games ago, was on pace for like 53 goals on the season. And is he going to do that? No. Dylan Larkin is not going to be a 50 goal scorer, but could Dylan Larkin be a 40 goal scorer? Absolutely. And it's kind of reversed. They were talking about it a little bit. It's kind of reversed roles where Dylan Larkin is normally the one feeding Lucas Raymond for goals. And this year it's been Lucas Raymond feeding Dylan Larkin for most of his goals. And they're going to trade off back and forth. And if each one of them ended up with 30 plus goals and 40 plus assists, I think that's where, like, that's your sweet spot right there. But I think that Dylan Larkin, he's the one that can do it. Larkin is the guy that if you need someone to go down and score a goal for you, it's normally going to be him just because he's got that drive. I see a lot of that, though, developing in Raymond, and especially towards the end of last season when Larkin was out, you saw Raymond take over games. And when you needed a goal, you put it on Lucas Raymond's stick and he went down and he scored. And he's heating up again. He had goals, and it was like 4 straight games or 5 straight games until it was just broken in Vancouver, where you put it on his stick, he'd go find a way to score. So I have faith in Raymond to do that. But what you're hoping the development path of Buchelnikov looks like is that of Kirill Kaprizov. They're both 5'10". Right now, Buchelnikov is 169 pounds. Kaprizov is 27. He's 202 pounds. So Dimitri Buchelnikov has time to put on weight. But in Kaprizov's first season in the KHL, he had 31 games played and 8 points. In Buchelnikov's first season in the KHL, he had 55 games played, but 29 points. This season, he's reached his previous season total in like 24 fewer games, which is really impressive. Kaprizov's second season in the KHL before coming over to the NHL in 53 games had 27 points. He beat his, it was about the same point totals from Buchelnikov in his first KHL season. And if he comes out and he gets anywhere close to that 63, I think that you absolutely have him break his contract and come over and play in the NHL next season, fill in for a spot that's left by someone like a Patrick Kane or any other, name a forward that we could trade right now, Joe Veleno or whoever, just to make a spot for a guy like him, just to get that extra oomph, get that extra hockey IQ, that vision, that scoring touch that you need, especially if you want to start him out in a depth, like a mid-6, bottom-6 role.
Yeah, no doubt. It would be interesting to see if they end up bringing him over. Honestly, at this point, you need to hit on one of these players. Obviously, the Raymonds and the Seiders and the Edvinsons are very promising, right? The Johanssons are very promising. But you don't have that one guy other than Seider and Raymond that have been drafted in the second round. I shouldn't even say other than Seider and Raymond. You don't have that player that was drafted in the second round that has become that star. You know what I mean? A lot of these franchises,
which to preface is incredibly hard to do. It's only something like 16 or 17% of players picked in the second round go on to play more than 100 NHL games. So it's really hard to hit on a second round player and have them become this even become a top 6 player.
No doubt. And again, drafting is not a perfect science. Even you can see a guy be so good at 4 different levels, and then they're drafted in the second round. They come to the NHL and they just can't figure it out for one reason or another. So obviously, the science is not perfect with it. But again, at some point, you're gonna have to find your Braden Point. You're going to have to find your Nikita Kucherov, not to make Tampa comparisons, but, Steve was there when those guys were drafted. So that's kind of should be the measuring stick or the bar, and they just haven't found that yet. Their guys that they've picked in the first round have been pretty good so far. They pretty much hit on a lot of their first round picks. Obviously, things are still, to be determined on some of those.
They're marinating, Tyler.
Exactly, but my point is you would love to hit on a Buchelnikov. Obviously, Sandin-Pellikka is coming at some point too, and that's another guy that you would love to hit on. So
Yeah, on Axel Sandin-Pellikka, real quick before we sign off tonight. As of November 21st, Red Wings prospects at LGRW prospects on Twitter. If you're not following them, go out there and do it. They're an awesome account. Has tweeted out that Axel Sandin-Pellikka, he leads all SHL defensemen with 18 points. I think he now has 19 points. U20 record for points in the SHL is 56, which is unlikely. U20 points recorded for a defenseman is 31. It's important to note that ASP will miss games for the World Junior Championships with Sweden. I think he could still hit that 31. I think that you're looking at right now, Leia has 19 points in 23 games. I think that's pretty incredible for a dude who's 19 years old. He has insane vision. He has such a good release. He's a little small. He's 5'11", 176. He could bulk up. You might get him into the 190 range in weight. But I think he's a defenseman that's going to come out there. And if you're looking for a guy who's going to quarterback your power play every single night and who's going to be a defenseman that's out there to rack up points, I think it's a guy like Sandin-Pellikka. If you're looking for your Brian Rafalski style defenseman, I think that's what you're looking like in him, because he's not a defensive slouch either. He's actually really effective defensively, and he's out there every single night as a 19-year-old in a men's league putting up points for what is right now not a very good team, but he's running it and he's doing it extremely successfully.
So basically what you're telling me, Greg, is that he is your Quinn Hughes that you missed on in 2017 or whatever.
Maybe.
It was.
Yeah, I think he could be. I think he could be. I'd have to go back and look at. The only thing is it's hard to compare to a player who didn't play in a men's league prior to the NHL. It's hard to do like apples to apples comparison there, but maybe you are looking at something like a Quinn Hughes, though. Moritz Seider is still going to be your top pair, right? And Sandin-Pellikka will be your second pair, right defenseman. So he might not get as much playing time, but you're looking for that same offensive punch. I think you're trying to replicate the offensive punch of someone you had like Shane Gostisbehere, who is far better defensively, who you could trust in the defensive zone.
Yeah, I mean, and just looking at like the tail of the tape, kind of, so to speak, the Quinn Hughes is 5'10", 180. Axel's ASP is 5'11", 175. So, I mean, pretty similar in terms of stature. Obviously, Quinn Hughes is 25 now, but like that's the kind of player that brings this to the next level. I always talked about our breakout and having issues, and where I kind of say it's personnel and it's coaching, maybe a mesh of the two. A guy like this takes that and throws everything out the window because he's making passes on the tape and breaking out like a good team in the NHL would. I would say I watch anywhere between 10 to 12 hockey games a week, maybe even more than that sometimes, depending on the week or whatever. The Wings breakout is the worst breakout in the NHL.
What breakout?
I can tell you that for certain. So this could help address that at some point. Obviously not this year, but that's kind of the thing you look for. You need a defenseman that's a puck mover. He obviously has offensive upside, and you said no slouch defensively. So I don't see a problem in it. Where do you see him next year?
I think he could play in Detroit next year. I really do. But again, it comes down to, can you get rid of a contract? Like Jeff Petry's contract is running out. There are some people that think we will re-sign him. If we do, I'm putting a wanted poster on the wall for Steve Yzerman. But if you could trade a guy like Ben Sherratt or just let Petry expire, you need to bring in another second pair defenseman or a top pair for Mo so you can play Edvinsson on the second pair. But I think if you came in next season with a second pair of Edvinsson ASP, like that's immediately miles ahead of where you currently are at. And I do think that he could come in and play in the NHL with the points that he's putting up now. If he can go into the offseason and put on 10 pounds, I think he's an NHL player. I think there's no reason to, and if not, maybe he plays a month in the AHL until the first defensive injury happens, and then he's in the lineup like Marco Kasper did this season. But I do think as of right now, he could play in the NHL next season. It's whether or not they'll put him there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think the point where we're at is just you need to go out there and find a way to win games. And that's what they need to do going into next month, or going into this month, is go out there and figure out, with the team you have right now, how are you going to go win games and what do you need to change? And if you refuse to change anything and you come out of this December with a worse December than you had last season, coaching absolutely needs to go. Do I think he does it? No. But I think that is what should happen if you come out of this December with a worse December than you had last season. But I think that's where we're going to wrap it for tonight. Tyler, I want to get your final thoughts before we sign off.
Yeah, my final thoughts are you have some games here that are winnable in the next month or so. And you need to find a way to win those games. And you need to find a way to win some of the games that you're not supposed to win, like the Torontos. And, obviously Boston has been kind of a house of horrors for the Wings over the years. But, yeah, I mean, you have to find a way to win some of those games. And you put yourself in a situation where you're closer to the playoffs than you are now. Because if not, you're going to get to a situation where January comes and it doesn't get easier, because then the schedule gets condensed because of the whole Four Nations face-off that starts in, February? So, I mean, you need to find a way to get the bleeding stopped now. Otherwise, you need to fire the coach, and that hopefully can, help rectify some of the situation. I just don't understand why they haven't done it yet. I really don't. You can follow me on Twitter at SealDog91.
Yeah, I agree with everything you say there. I think that, like you said, you need to find some way to make a change, especially if you keep losing in the way you are losing, like going ahead and then blowing a lead, or not being able to score and then you can't lock it down after you do end up getting a goal and you just ended in something stupid, something in front of the net that should never be there. So they need to win those games, especially against the hard teams, like you said. You can follow me online at Bringing the Wing. You can follow the Grindline Podcast online at Grindline Pod on all social networks, on Blue Sky, on Threads, on Twitter. We are everywhere. We'd give a shout out to the Hockey Podcast Network and thank them for hosting us and spreading us around. Also to Vintage Detroit, which is the only place you should get your Detroit jerseys from and worked on, and where we have a exclusive t-shirt collection where more should be going up this week for whatever they call it, Cyber Week or something. Today's Cyber Monday. This is Cyber Week. We should have some new shirts going up there this week as well. You can also go to our YouTube page, sub to our channel, turn on notifications. You'll be notified every time an episode goes live. You'll get to see our faces talk about hockey instead of just listening to our voices. But other than that, that is going to do it for us tonight. So for Tyler, I am Greg. You stay classy, Hockey Town.